The sky was burning violet when Commander Hannah realized she was going to die. She stood in the center of a field that had once been green. Now it was black with ash and red with blood. Smoke rose from a dozen small fires around her. The wind carried the smell of death and burning metal. Her crystalline spear shook in her hands. Not from fear, from exhaustion. She had been fighting for 3 hours without rest. Her muscles screamed for mercy. Her lungs burned with every breath. But she could not stop. She would not stop. Around her lay the bodies of her squad. Sergeant Yuri was slumped against a broken rock. He had been the best shot Hannah had ever known. He could hit a target from 2 kilometers away without thinking. Now he stared at nothing with empty eyes. A hole the size of a fist had been torn through his chest. Lieutenant Day lay face down in the dirt. Before they had landed on this cursed planet, he had shown Hannah a picture of his daughter. She was 7 years old with bright eyes and a smile that could light up a room. He had promised her he would come home. He had promised. Private Sumin, Corporal G1, Specialist Yumbai, all of them dead. All of them gone. Hannah was the last one standing. The craft had come without warning. One moment her squad was setting up camp near the research station. The next moment, dropships were falling from the sky like metal rain. The craft poured out of them in endless waves. 8 feet tall, covered in black chitin armor that was harder than steel. Mandibles that could bite through starship hulls. Claws that could tear through combat armor like paper. The Velith Coalition had been at war with the Krath for 60 years. Hannah had fought them many times before, but never like this. Never so many. Never so fast. Her communication device had been destroyed in the first attack. A Krath warrior had crushed it under its foot while Hannah watched. Her emergency beacon had sent one signal before it died. One cry for help into the void. But the nearest coalition base was 300 kilometers away. Even if someone heard her signal, they could never reach her in time. She was alone. 30 Krath warriors now formed a circle around her. They moved slowly, clicking their mandibles together. The sound was like bones breaking. They were in no hurry. They knew she had nowhere to run. They knew she was wounded and tired. They were enjoying this. Hannah looked down at her spear. The crystal blade glowed with a faint blue light. It was an ancient weapon, passed down through 17 generations of her family. Her mother had carried it. Her grandmother before that. And her grandmother's mother before that. All the way back to the first Hannah, who had forged it from the heart of a dying star. The spear had enough power left for maybe 2 more strikes. After that, it would be nothing more than a pretty stick. 2 strikes against 30 enemies. Hannah laughed. It was a broken sound with no joy in it. Very well, she whispered to herself. Let us see how many I can take with me before the end. The Krath leader stepped forward. It was bigger than the others. Its black chitin was covered in scars from 100 battles. On its head, it wore a crown made of weapons taken from fallen enemies. Swords and spears and guns all melted together into a twisted symbol of victory. The leader pointed one clawed hand at Hannah and made a sound that might have been laughter. Hannah did not wait for them to attack. Waiting was for those who had hope. She had none left. All she had was rage. She charged. The first Krath never saw her coming. She moved faster than her tired body should have allowed. Her spear punched through its throat before it could raise its claws. The creature fell with a wet gurgling sound. Hannah did not stop. She pulled her spear free and spun. The second Krath was already swinging at her. She ducked under its arm and swept her blade low. 3 of its legs came off at the joints. It crashed to the ground, screaming. 2 down. 28 to go. The others closed in. Hannah fought like she had never fought before. She was everywhere at once, ducking, spinning, stabbing. slashing. Her spear sang through the air, leaving trails of blue light. Every movement was perfect. Every strike was deadly, but there were too many. There were always too many. A claw caught her shoulder from behind. Pain exploded through her body. She felt her armor crack. She felt her blood start to flow. But she did not fall. She turned and drove her spear toward the craft leader's compound eye. This is it, she thought. One more. Just one more. The leader was faster than she expected. It swatted her spear aside with one armored forearm. The force of the blow sent Hana stumbling. And then something hit her from behind. Hard. She crashed to the ground, her spear flying from her hands. She heard the sound before she felt it. A sharp crack, like ice breaking on a winter lake. When she looked up, she saw her spear lying on the ground in front of her. Broken. The crystal blade had shattered into 1,000 pieces. 17 generations of her family's honor lay scattered across the blood-soaked earth. The blue light flickered once, twice, and then went dark forever. Hana tried to stand. A craftfoot slammed down on her back, pressing her into the dirt. She felt ribs crack. She tasted blood in her mouth. The leader walked toward her. Its shadow fell over her like a death shroud. It raised one serrated forearm, the edge sharp enough to cut through anything. Hana closed her eyes. She thought of her mother. She thought of her home world. She thought of all the things she would never do, and all the places she would never see. I am sorry, she thought. I tried. I really tried. The craft leader brought its arm down. And then the sky screamed. Hana's eyes snapped open. Above her, a streak of fire was cutting across the violet sky. It was moving impossibly fast, trailing smoke and flame. For one wild moment, she thought it was a meteor. Then she saw the shape of it. Not a rock. A pod. A drop pod. The craft looked up. Their mandibles clicked in confusion. The pod hit the ground 30 meters away. The impact was like a bomb going off. Two craft warriors who had been standing too close simply disappeared under the metal shell. The shockwave knocked 3 more off their feet. Hana stared. Her heart was pounding so hard she could feel it in her teeth. The door of the pod did not open. It exploded outward. The metal sheet flew through the air and took another craft's head, clean off. And then something stepped out of the smoke. Something impossible. Something human. 3 weeks had passed since the battle. Hana stood outside the door of the recovery room on the Coalition medical ship Eternal Mercy. She had been standing there for 5 minutes, trying to gather her courage. In her hands she carried a case made of dark wood from her home world. Silver patterns were carved into its surface. They told the story of her family going back 17 generations. Inside the case was a gift. And a promise. She could hear voices through the door. Taehan was arguing with someone. Again. He had been arguing with the medical staff since the moment he woke up 3 days ago. He wanted to leave. They wanted him to stay. Neither side was willing to give ground. Hana smiled, despite herself. Humans really were stubborn. She opened the door and stepped inside. The recovery room was small but comfortable. Medical machines lined the walls, their screens showing numbers and graphs that Hana did not fully understand. Taehan was sitting up in bed, his upper body wrapped in bandages. The chief medical officer stood beside him with her arms crossed and a look of pure frustration on her face. I am fine, Taehan was saying. I have had worse. There was this. One time on a planet called, you had 17 broken bones. The doctor interrupted. Your internal organs were so damaged that we had to rebuild 3 of them. You died on the operating table 3 times. 3 times. But I'm not dead now. That is the point. The point is that you should be in that bed for at least another month. A month? Taehan looked horrified. I will go crazy. There is nothing to do here. Hana cleared her throat. Both of them turned to look at her. The doctor's frustration melted into relief. Commander Hana, please, talk some sense into him. He will not listen to me. I will try, Hana said. May we have the room? The doctor looked between them. Then she sighed, threw her hands up in defeat, and walked out. The door closed behind her with a soft click. Hana approached the bed. Up close, she could see how pale Taehyung was, how tired his eyes looked despite his protests. He had been through something that should have killed him. Multiple times, apparently. The fact that he was awake and talking was nothing short of a miracle. But he was still smiling. That smile had not changed at all. Commander, he said, good to see you. How are you feeling? Hana almost laughed. He was lying in a hospital bed wrapped in bandages, and he was asking about her health. Better than you, she said. My wounds were not as serious. I was released from medical care a week ago. Good. That is good. He nodded like this news personally relieved him. I was worried. You took some bad hits in that fight. Not as bad as you. Details. He waved a hand dismissively. So what brings you here? Come to help me escape. I have a plan. It involves the ventilation system and a stolen medical coat. Hana shook her head. I came to talk. There are things I need to say. Taehyung's expression grew more serious. He shifted in the bed, wincing slightly at the movement, and gave her his full attention. I am listening, he said. Hana looked down at the case in her hands. She had practiced this speech a dozen times. Now that the moment was here, all her prepared words seemed wrong. Too formal, too distant. They did not capture what she really felt. So she decided to just speak from her heart. My spear is gone, she began. It was destroyed in the battle. It had been passed down through 17 generations of my family. My mother carried it, her mother before her, all the way back to the beginning of my line. She paused. When it shattered, I thought a part of me died with it. Taehyung was quiet. His eyes were kind. But you saved me, Hana continued. A stranger. Someone from a species I had never even met before. You fell from the sky and fought beside me against impossible odds. Not because you had to, not because anyone ordered you to, but because you heard someone calling for help and could not ignore it. She opened the case. Inside, resting on a bed of crimson silk, were the broken fragments of her crystal spear. They still caught the light, still held traces of the blue glow they had carried for so many generations. And beside them lay something new, a sword. Human style, with a long blade and a simple crossguard. But it was not entirely human. The metal had been forged using Velith techniques. The edge was sharper than anything humans could make alone. And the crossguard was decorated with pieces of her shattered spear, the crystal fragments arranged in a pattern that sparkled like captured stars. Taehyung stared at it. His eyes went wide. The smiths worked for 3 days without rest, Hana said. They used techniques from both our peoples, human design, Velith craftsmanship, and pieces of my family's history. She lifted the sword from the case and held it out to him. It is not a replacement for what was lost. Your grandmother's blade, my family's spear. Those things can never be replaced. But this is something new. Something born from the meeting of two peoples who were strangers and became something more. Taehyung did not take the sword. He looked from the blade to Hana and back again. Commander, I cannot accept this. It is too much. Your families. My grandmother told me stories too, Hana interrupted. Her voice was firm but gentle. She said that when someone saves your life, you become bound to them. Not as servant and master. Not as debtor and creditor, but as equals. Two souls walking the same path. She met his eyes and held them. You saved me, Taehyung. You bled for me. You nearly died for me. I will not let that debt go unpaid. Not because I have to. but because I choose to." She pressed the sword into his hands. Taehyun looked at the weapon for a long moment. His fingers traced the crystal fragments in the crossguard. The light caught them and scattered tiny rainbows across the walls. "It is beautiful," he said quietly. "It is deadly," Hana corrected. "Just like you," he laughed. A real laugh this time, not the pained sounds he had been making since he woke up. His eyes sparkled with something that might have been tears. "Thank you," he said. "I do not have words for what this means to me." "Then do not use words. Use actions." Hana straightened her back. "When you carry that blade into battle, remember that you do not fight alone. The Velith stand with you. And I stand with you, wherever you go, whatever you face. You will never be alone again." Taehyun was silent for a moment. Then he slid the sword back into the case and looked up at her. "So," he said, "where do we go from here?" Hana looked out the window of the recovery room. Stars filled the darkness. Endless points of light scattered across the void. Each one a sun. Each one surrounded by worlds full of dangers and wonders and mysteries waiting to be discovered. "Wherever the fight takes us," she said. "Together." Taehyun smiled. That same impossible, beautiful, infuriating smile. "Together," he agreed. Outside the window, the stars burned on. And somewhere in the galaxy, the story of the human who fell from the sky began to spread. Soldiers told it around campfires. Children heard it from their parents. Enemies whispered it in fear. The story of a stranger who became a hero. The story of two warriors who became family. The story of humanity and why the galaxy would never be the same again. Hana had heard stories about humans her whole life. Everyone in the galaxy had heard them. They were a young species. They'd only been traveling between stars for about 300 years. That was nothing. The Velith had been sailing the void for 12,000 years. The Krath for even longer. By galactic standards, humans were babies. Children who had just learned to walk. But these children scared everyone. The story said humans could bond with anything. They would form emotional attachments to other species, to animals, to machines, even to simple objects like blankets and toys. They called things friends after knowing them for only a few hours. They would die for creatures they had just met. It was madness. It was beautiful madness. The story said humans could survive anything. They came from a death world where the weather tried to kill them. The animals tried to kill them, and even the plants tried to kill them. They had evolved not by avoiding danger, but by becoming more stubborn than danger itself. Break their bones, and they would heal. Poison them, and they would adapt. Corner them, and they would fight until their hearts stopped. The story said humans never gave up. Other species fought to survive. Humans fought to win. And they did not understand the difference. Hana had never met a human before. The Human Confederacy and the Velith Coalition had peaceful relations, but their territories rarely touched. Humans were like ghosts to her. Something she knew existed, but had never seen with her own eyes until now. The human stepped out of the smoking, drop pod like he was walking into a casual gathering. He was tall for his species, but still shorter than the Krath warriors around him. His armor was old. Hana's tactical training told her it was at least 20 years out of date. Dents and scratches covered every surface. Patches of different colored metal showed where it had been repaired again and again. It looked like it had been through 100 battles and refused to give up, just like the man wearing it. A large rifle was attached to his back. But in his hands, he carried something that made Hana's brain stutter. It was a sword. A long blade with an edge that caught the light. A melee weapon. The kind of thing civilized species had stopped using thousands of years ago. The human looked around the battlefield. His eyes moved from the dead bodies to the wounded Hana to the Krath warriors, who was slowly turning to face this new threat. His face showed no fear, no surprise, just cold calculation, like a machine measuring distances and angles. Then his eyes met Hana's, and he smiled. It was the strangest thing Hana had ever seen. She was lying in the dirt with a broken body and broken armor. Her squad was dead. Her weapon was destroyed. 30 Krath warriors stood between her and this lone human, and he was smiling like he had just been invited to a party. "Mind if I join the fight?" he asked. His Velith was not perfect. The words came out with a strange accent that made them hard to understand at first. But Hana understood them. She understood them very well. "You are insane," she said. "Probably," he agreed. His smile did not fade. "Name is Taehyun. Confederacy Marine Corps Rapid Response Division." He rolled his shoulders like he was stretching before exercise. "I was in the area. Picked up your emergency signal about an hour ago. Took me a while to get here. Had to dodge some space junk in orbit." He shrugged. "Sorry about being late." Hana stared at him. He was apologizing. He had fallen from the sky in a metal box, landed in the middle of an enemy army, and he was apologizing for not arriving sooner. The Krath leader shrieked the command. The clicking sound echoed across the battlefield. Half of the warriors turned away from Hana and faced the human instead. 14 against 1. The odds were impossible. Taehyun did not seem worried. "You know," he said, his voice calm and conversational. "My grandmother used to tell me old stories from Earth. Stories from before we went to the stars. She said that in the old days, people believed that if you saved someone's life, you became responsible for them. Like their fate was tied to yours forever." The sword in his hands began to glow. A faint blue light ran along the edge of the blade. Hana's eyes went wide. She had never seen technology like that before. "I always thought that was a nice idea," Taehyun continued. He raised the sword. The glow grew brighter. "A good way to look at the universe." The Krath charged. Hana expected the human to die. She expected him to be torn apart in seconds. One soldier against 14 killing machines. It was not a fight. It was an execution. She was wrong. Taehyun moved like water. The first Krath swung its claws at his head. He was not there. He had already slipped to the side, his body bending at angles that should have been impossible. His sword came up in a blur of blue light. The Krath's arm fell to the ground, separated from its body at the elbow. Before the creature could scream, the blade came back around and opened its throat. One down. The second Krath attacked from behind. Taehyun did not turn around. He simply dropped to one knee and thrust backward. The sword punched through the warrior's chest and out through its back. He pulled the blade free and rolled to the side as a third Krath's claws slammed into the spot where he had been. 2 down. Hana watched in amazement as the human carved through the enemy like they were made of paper. His movements were beautiful in a terrible way. Every step was perfect. Every strike was deadly. The blue-edged sword sang through the air, and everywhere it went, Krath fell. But they were fast, and there were many of them. A claw caught Taehyun's side. His armor cracked. Blood sprayed. Hana saw him stumble for just a moment. Then he laughed. He actually laughed. "That is more like it," he said, and pressed forward even harder. Hana understood then. She understood why the galaxy told stories about humans. She understood why ancient species with thousands of years of history still looked at these young creatures with something like fear. Humans did not fight like other species. They did not calculate odds or measure risks. When they committed to something, they committed completely. Pain did not slow them down. It made them angry. Wounds did not make them careful. They made them dangerous. Taehyun was bleeding. He was outnumbered. He was fighting with an ancient weapon against Enemies that should have torn him apart. And he was winning. 12 Krath fell in the first minute. The survivors began to hesitate. Their mandibles clicked nervously. They had never seen anything like this before. "Commander," Taehyun called out without looking at her. "Can you still fight?" Hana looked at her broken spear. She looked at the blood running down her arm. She looked at the bodies of her dead friends. Then she looked at this strange human who had fallen from the sky to save her. "Give me a weapon," she said. Taehyun smiled and threw something toward her. Hana caught it with her good hand. It was a pistol, human-made, heavy and solid in her grip. "It kicks hard," he warned. "Aim for the joints. Their armor is weaker there." Hana tested the weight. She checked the ammunition. Then she pushed herself to her feet. Her body screamed in protest. Everything hurt, but she was still alive. And as long as she was alive, she could fight back to back. She asked. Taehyun's smile grew wider. "Back to back," he agreed. The remaining Krath charged at them from all sides. Ha-Na raised her borrowed weapon. The real fight was about to begin. Hana had spent her entire life learning how to fight. She had trained with masters from 7 different species. She had studied combat techniques that were older than most civilizations. She had earned her rank through blood and pain and sacrifice. She thought she knew what war looked like. She was wrong. Fighting beside Taehyun was like dancing with a storm. He moved constantly, never staying in one place for more than a heartbeat. His sword was everywhere at once. Blue light traced patterns in the air like brushstrokes on a dark canvas. Every movement flowed into the next with perfect smoothness. Hana pressed her back against his and raised the human pistol. The weight was strange in her 3-fingered hand. The grip was designed for human fingers, which were shorter and thicker than hers. But she adjusted. She adapted. That was what soldiers did. The first Krath came at her from the left. She squeezed the trigger. Taehyun had warned her about the kick. He had not warned her enough. The pistol bucked in her hand like a living thing. The shot went wide, missing the Krath completely and blowing a chunk out of a rock behind it. Hana gritted her teeth and adjusted her aim. The second shot caught the creature in the knee joint, right where the chitin armor was thinnest. The Krath's leg buckled. It fell forward with a shriek of pain. She finished it with a shot to the head. "Good," Taehyun said from behind her. She could hear the smile in his voice. "Very good. Keep your arms straight. Let the gun do the work." Hana did not have time to respond. 2 more Krath were charging at her. She fired twice. 1 shot hit. 1 missed. The wounded creature stumbled but kept coming. She fired again and again until it finally stopped moving. Behind her, she could hear Taehyun's sword singing through the air. She could hear the wet sound of chitin being cut. She could hear the screams of dying Krath and the calm, steady breathing of the human who was killing them. They moved together without speaking. When Hana stepped left, Taehyun stepped right. When she ducked, he covered the space above her head. When a Krath got too close for her to shoot, his blade was already there to meet it. It was like they had fought together for years. Like they could read each other's minds. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Hana lost count of how many Krath she killed. Her arm was numb from the pistol's recoil. Her injured shoulder burned with every movement. Blood was running down her side from a wound she did not remember receiving, but she was still standing. Still fighting. Still alive. A Krath warrior broke through their defense and slammed into her from the side. Hana crashed to the ground. The pistol flew from her grip. She rolled and saw the creature raising its claws for a killing strike. Then Taehyun was there. He appeared out of nowhere, his sword already moving. The blue blade took the Krath's head off in 1 clean cut. The body stood there for a moment, not understanding that it was dead. Before collapsing on top of Ha-Na-Dot, she shoved the corpse aside and grabbed for her pistol. Taehyun reached down and pulled her to her feet with his free hand. "You all right?" he asked. Hana looked at him. Really looked at him for the first time since the fighting started. He was a mess. His armor was cracked in at least 5 places. Blood ran from wounds on his arms, his chest, his face. One of his eyes was starting to swell shut. He was breathing hard, each breath coming out as a ragged gasp, but he was still smiling. "How are you still standing?" Hana asked. Taehyun laughed. It was a painful sound, like something was broken inside his chest. "Humans are stubborn," he said. "Did nobody tell you? We do not know how to quit." A Krath came at them from behind. Hana raised her pistol and shot it in the face without looking. Taehyun nodded in approval. "You learn fast," he said. "I had good training. I meant just now. With the gun." Hana almost smiled. Almost. The fight continued. There were only 12 Krath left now. Hana and Taehyun had killed 18 between them. The survivors were being more careful. They circled at a distance, looking for openings instead of charging blindly. The Krath leader stood at the back, watching. Its compound eyes tracked every movement. Its mandibles clicked in a pattern that might have been commands to its warriors. It had not entered the fight yet. It was waiting. Taehyun noticed. "The big one," he said quietly. "It is smart. Saving its strength." "Krath leaders are chosen for their cunning," Hana replied. "They do not become commanders by being stupid. Neither do humans." Taehyun spun his sword in a slow circle. Drops of Krath blood flew off the blade. "We need to end this fast. I am running low on blood." "You mean ammunition?" "No, blood. I think I have been losing it for a while now." He shrugged like this was a minor problem. Probably should have mentioned that earlier. Hana stared at him. "You are insane. You keep saying that. Because it keeps being true." 3 Krath attacked at once. Taehyun met them head-on while Hana covered his sides. Her pistol clicked empty. She grabbed a fallen Krath's claw from the ground and used it as a knife. The bone edge was sharp enough to cut through joints if she hit them at the right angle. 2 more Krath fell. Then another. Then another. And then there were only 7 left. 7 warriors and their leader. The leader finally moved. It stepped forward, pushing past its remaining soldiers. Up close, it was even more terrifying than Hana had realized. Its body was covered in old scars. Trophies from fallen enemies decorated its armor. It had been fighting wars since before Hana was born. "Human," the leader said. His voice was like rocks grinding together. "You fight well, but you were tired, wounded. You cannot win." Taehyun straightened up. Blood was dripping from his chin. His armor was barely holding together. The glow on his sword was starting to flicker. "Maybe," he said. "Maybe not. Only one way to find out." The leader tilted its head. For a moment, something like respect flickered in its compound eyes. Then it attacked. Hana had never seen anything move so fast. One moment the leader was standing still. The next moment it was directly in front of Taehyun, its claws already swinging. Taehyun blocked. His sword met the leader's arm with a crash that echoed across the battlefield. Sparks flew. The impact drove him back 3 steps. The leader pressed forward. Its attacks came like a storm. Each blow was strong enough to crack stone. Each strike was aimed at a vital point. It was testing Taehyun. Looking for weaknesses, Hana tried to help. She aimed her borrowed claw at the leader's back. But one of the remaining warriors blocked her path. She had to fight her way through. She could only watch as Taehyun faced the leader alone. The human was fast, but the leader was faster. A claw caught Taehyun's sword arm and tore through his armor. He grunted in pain but did not stop fighting. He switched the sword to his other hand and kept attacking. The leader caught the blade with both claws. For a moment they stood there, locked together, neither giving ground. Then the leader squeezed. The sword shattered. Hana watched the blue light die as pieces of the blade fell to the ground. Taehyun stumbled backward, holding nothing but a broken handle. The leader raised its claws for the killing blow. No! Hana screamed, but she was too far away. She could not reach them in time. She could only watch as the human she barely knew prepared to die for her. The broken sword handle fell from Taehyun's fingers. It hit the ground with a soft thud that seemed impossibly loud in the sudden silence. Hana's heart stopped. This was it. This was the moment when the strange, smiling human who had fallen from the sky would die. He had no weapon. He was wounded beyond what any sane person could survive. The Krath leader stood before him with claws raised and victory in its eyes. But Taehyun did not look afraid. He did not look worried. He did not even look surprised. He looked annoyed. That was my grandmother's sword, he said quietly. She gave it to me before she died. Told me to use it well. The Krath leader paused. Its mandibles clicked in confusion. It had expected begging. It had expected fear. It had not expected this calm anger. Your weapon is destroyed, the leader said. You have nothing left. Surrender, and I will give you a quick death. Samyan looked down at his empty hands. He flexed his fingers, cracked his knuckles. Then he looked back up at the creature that towered over him. Nothing left? He repeated. No, I still have these. He raised his fist. Hana's breath caught in her throat. He was going to fight a Krath leader with his bare hands. A creature covered in armor that could stop bullets. A creature with claws that could cut through metal. A creature that had killed hundreds of warriors far better equipped than this bleeding. Broken human. He was insane. He was absolutely insane. And Hana had never admired anyone more. The Krath leader made a sound that might have been laughter. Foolish, it said, but brave. I will remember you, human. I will add your bones to my collection. It attacked. The claw came down like a falling mountain. Taehyun did not try to block it. He simply was not there anymore. He had moved to the side at the last possible moment, the tips of the claws passing close enough to take a piece of his ear off. He did not waste the opening. His armored fist slammed into the joint where the leader's arm met its shoulder. The impact made a sound like breaking wood. The leader stumbled. Its arm hung at an odd angle. First blood. The leader screamed in rage and swung its other arm. Taehyun ducked under it and drove his elbow into the creature's knee. Chitin cracked. The leader dropped to one leg. Hana fought toward them. Two Krath warriors tried to stop her. She killed one with the bone claw she had taken earlier. The other she killed with her bare hands, driving her fingers into its compound eye and not stopping until it stopped moving. She looked up just in time to see Taehyun get caught. The leader had been faking. Its wounded arm shot out and grabbed Taehyun by the throat. It lifted him off the ground like he weighed nothing. Its claws dug into his neck. Blood began to flow. Did you really think you could defeat me? The leader hissed. Me? I have killed thousands. I have conquered worlds. What are you? Nothing. A child from a child species. Taehyun grabbed the leader's arm with both hands. He was choking. His face was turning red. His feet kicked at empty air, but he was still smiling. That impossible, terrifying smile. You want to know what I am? He gasped. Each word was a struggle. I am human, and we do not know how to quit. He pulled himself up, using the leader's own arm as leverage. He hauled his body higher until his face was level with the creature's head. The effort must have been agony. His arm shook. His wounds reopened. Blood poured down his body, but he did not stop. He could not stop. He got his fingers into the gap between the leader's head and body, the place where the chitin plates met, the weakest point on any craft, and he pulled. The sound was something Hana would hear in her nightmares for the rest of her life. Chitin tearing, flesh ripping, the wet crack of something vital being separated from something else vital. The leader screamed. It dropped Taehyun and staggered backward, both claws going to its neck. Green blood was pouring from the gap where its head had begun to separate from its body. Not fully removed, but damaged badly enough. Taehyun hit the ground hard. He did not stay down. He pushed himself to his feet and threw himself at the wounded leader. His fist rose and fell again and again and again. Each blow landed on the damaged area. Each blow made the wound worse. The leader fell. It crashed to the ground with a sound like a building collapsing. It tried to rise. Taehyun kicked it in the face. It tried to crawl away. Taehyun grabbed one of its own broken claws from the battlefield and drove it through the creature's eye. The leader stopped moving. Silence fell over the battlefield. Hana looked around. The remaining Krath warriors were running. They had seen their leader fall. They had seen what this single human could do, and they wanted no part of it. She watched them disappear into the smoke and did not try to follow. Let them run. Let them spread the story of what happened here. Let every Krath in the galaxy know that humans were not to be underestimated. She turned back to Taehyun. He was standing over the leader's body, breathing hard. Blood covered him from head to toe. Most of it was green, but far too much of it was red. He swayed on his feet like a tree in a strong wind. Taehyun, Hana said. He looked at her. For a moment, his eyes seemed unfocused, like he was looking at something far away that only he could see. Then he smiled. That same impossible smile, see? He said, told you. I still had something left. His legs gave out. He collapsed to his knees, then forward onto his hands. Hana rushed to his side and caught him before he could fall face first into the dirt. You crazy human, she said. What were you thinking? Was not thinking, he admitted. His voice was weak, barely a whisper. Thinking is too slow. Just reacting. Just fighting. That is what we do. Hana looked at his wounds. There were too many of them. Too much blood lost. His body had been pushed far beyond what it should have been able to handle. Why? She asked. Why did you come here? Why did you fight for me? You do not even know me. Taehyun's eyes met hers. Despite everything, despite the pain and the blood and the exhaustion, there was warmth in them. Real warmth. Like she was an old friend he was happy to see. You called for help, he said simply. That is all that matters. Someone needed help. I was there. How could I not come? Hana felt something break inside her chest. Not a bone. Not a muscle. Something else. A wall she had built around her heart without realizing it. A barrier that kept her safe from caring too much about anything. This human had torn it down without even trying. Do not die, she said. It came out as a command. An order. Do you understand me? You saved my life. You are not allowed to die before I can repay you. Taehyun laughed. It was a weak sound that turned into a cough halfway through. I will try, he said. Humans are stubborn. Remember? His eyes closed. Hana held him and waited for rescue to arrive. She did not let go.